Hello everyone, great to be here with you. First of all, may I just apologize if any of you thought this started an hour earlier. There is an awkward time of year, which we are in right now, when the US has gone forward, sprung forward as it were. They've done daylight savings, but we haven't, and nor has Australia. So it's that awkward time of the year right now, which meant that a couple of the messages that went out or posts that you may have seen might have said the wrong time to you, and for that I apologize. But we are getting started in just a few minutes here. Delighted to have you here if you're live right now, and I'd love to hear from you in the chat. So please do add in your highs and hellos. Let me know where you're joining us from and how you're getting on this week. It's a big week for a lot of us. I know it's tough, and there's a lot going on, right? And you may have questions, and I'm happy to stay on and answer those questions today for you, as well as everything else we're doing. So today's webinar is going to be about ensemble work, so feel free to add in your questions. Let me know what you want to get out of today in the comments. However, the situation as it stands right now means that ensemble work might be the furthest thing from your mind, even though you signed up for this webinar, because you can't possibly get groups together because you have social distancing where you are. So if that's the case for you, don't worry. At the end of today's webinar, I've added an extra section to look after all of us that can't get kids together but still want to keep that collaboration going. So I've got some suggestions for you there. And also, because of the current situation, I'm happy to stay on for extra Q&A time at the end if anyone has questions, not just about ensemble stuff, but about the current situation, about COVID-19, about online teaching, about anything to do with what we're dealing with right now, or, anything else. Just a general Q&A session. Normally it would be about the topic at hand, but I'm happy to answer anything at the end of today's webinar. So we're going to get started in about a minute. I'm just checking in with the chat here. Looks like everything is going well and running smoothly apart from our time zone issues. Janice says, maybe in and out today, rescheduling and scheduling Zoom lessons. No worries, Janice. We're all there with you, or a lot of us are. Donna joining us from Pennsylvania. Great to see you here. Catherine from Arkansas, which I always almost mispronounce because of its spelling. Alison from New Jersey, great to see you guys here. Anyone else, please add your highs. Love to see you in the chat, getting active, getting involved, and asking questions. I will be answering all of your questions at the end, of course, but first we're going to run through some basics of ensemble work and using improv and all that stuff in groups. And as I said, some stuff that's particularly relevant right now for getting students to play together when they can't be together. So, relevant all the time for those of us who can't run workshops that regularly, but especially important right now, yes? Okay, so we're going to get started in just a second. I'm just going to double check on a tech thing here. Yep, I think we're all good. Okay. Fantastic. I'm going to switch over to my screen now to get started with the presentation. Please continue to add your highs and hellos in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Oh, hello from Colombia. Fantastic. Okay, so we're talking about group workshop ensembles today, or ensemble work in general, and how we can make our studios more collaborative. For those of you who haven't met me, I believe I see a lot of familiar faces in the chat, but if I haven't met you yet, my name is Nicola Canton. I'm from Dublin in Ireland. I run a blog, Colourful Keys, and a big Facebook group called Vibrant Music Studio Teachers, and also a membership site called Vibrant Music Teaching. And I've written 3 books, which you can find all the places you normally find books: Piano Practice Physician's Handbook, Rhythm in 5, and Playful Preschool Piano Teaching. If you have questions throughout today's webinar, please put them in the chat box. The whole point of doing these live is that I get to interact with you guys and help you with the things you need help with the most, right? So please add your thoughts and questions in the chat as we go through. I won't always be able to check in real time, but I will come back to everything at the end and make sure I've answered every single question and dotted every I and crossed every T. So my first question for you is how I can help you most today. What do you most need help with? Anything goes. As I said, I'll come back to things at the end as needed, but let me know how I can help you most so that I can shape the content towards what you need right now. We're here to talk about ensemble playing and collaboration, and I have seen enormous value and benefit from working with ensembles more and more with my students over the years. So my studio has gradually become more and more collaborative, and it's built a sense of studio community that I really didn't have before. It teaches my students about teamwork skills and working as part of a group. They have to stay in time when they're playing in an ensemble of any sort, and the train keeps moving no matter what. I often talk about the train keeping moving when we're doing sight reading with my students. And what I mean by that is you have to keep going. You can't go back and fix mistakes, because then you've made two mistakes. You've made the mistake of playing the wrong note in the first place, and you've now made the mistake of disrupting the rhythm or changing the tempo or whatever they do to fix, quote unquote, the mistake. So the train keeps moving. It keeps rolling on. The notes basically disappear as soon as you've played them. And while you can say all these things in a private lesson, and you can reiterate it to your students, and you can even say it when you're doing teacher duets and try to be really strict about sticking to the tempo and keeping going no matter what, it's hard. Whereas when you're in a group situation, they just get it, right? When they have to play as part of a band of some sort, or in a duet, they have to keep going. They have to stay in time. These things are just built in. And this is a benefit that so many other musicians, non-pianists, get from playing in orchestras and bands and all that kind of stuff, that it's harder for a pianist to find the opportunity to do. So that's why bringing students together in your studio is so useful. How can you facilitate ensembles then? Well, buddy and partner lessons are a fantastic opportunity for this. You can also encourage friends to have piano play dates outside of the studio. You can host group workshops inside your studio. And you can do asynchronous collaboration between students in your studio, and we're going to talk about that more later. So the first question you need to ask yourself when you want to build an ensemble for your students is about the music format. What format is the music in? Is it a lead sheet that you're looking at? Is it a melody with chords and or an accompaniment pattern of some sort? Is it a melody that goes between the two hands? A lot of beginner music is written like that. Or even imitative music where it's echoed in the left hand. I would count that in that group as well. So which format is the music in? You want to start with something that one of your students is working on, or you want to teach them about a famous composer and this is one of their pieces. Start with something that's already made. Don't start from scratch when you're looking at creating an ensemble piece. But you absolutely do not need to find a piece that's already put together for you in the parts that you have. You absolutely are able to do this yourself. And you're able to do it on the fly. I'm not going to ask you to spend hours notating, duet and trio versions of pieces that your students want to play. That's not what we're doing here at all. It's all about doing it in the moment and making it work and helping your students learn through the process of creating the ensemble. So once you've decided which one of those categories your music fits into, you need to convert it to a lead sheet if it is not a lead sheet to make this process easier. So if it's already a lead sheet, great, you're golden, keep going. If it's not, go through and label the chords in the music or the harmony that would go with it if it had chords. Do this with your student to get the most or get the most advanced student to do it for homework. So if you're going to have a group workshop coming up, for example, get the most advanced student who's going to be attending to label the chords for their homework, and you can then use it at your group workshop. Or you can do it in the lesson with your student or multiple students. And if you need to, you can then color code the notes and the chords if necessary. So that's if you need color coding to facilitate a new beginner, a preschooler to be part of your ensemble. The next step is to level the playing field. So for those absolute beginners, I would recommend color coding as the simplest way to get them involved in a big group ensemble. This is a keyboard map that you see there that's included in several VMT resources. I find these super handy for my group workshops so that my preschoolers can jump right in and they don't need to be able to read. So we then use colored notation and the keyboard maps together, and we simplify the rhythm if we need to. This can all be done on the fly apart from creating the keyboard map, and that you can just download and print and assemble once, and then you have it on hand for any preschoolers who want to get involved in ensemble work. For your advanced students then, you need to level it out for them too. So how are you going to take it further with them? Well, whenever students are working on root notes or chords, your more advanced students can be doing vamping patterns and experimenting with rhythm. There's a resource there, Become a Stealthy Pop Ninja, that's in the library, and that gives several different example rhythms, or you can take them from their own music. They can also use chord substitutions if you want to get into that, and fancy endings and embellishments. So they can take all of this further and become a jazzy cocktail pianist style part of the ensemble. And your beginners can be working with just one note at a time that's color coded for them with a keyboard map. So everyone gets to participate. So tell me how you handle mixed level groups. What do you do if you have groups of kids playing together? Do you have tricks like this that make it work with your multi-age, multi-level groups? I'd love to hear your suggestions in the comments as well. The next stage is to create your actual ensemble. So you know what type of music you have and you've made it into a makeshift lead sheet or chord chart, and you've leveled the playing field with the notation to make it sensible for advanced students and for beginners. How do you actually create your ensemble? Well, this is the simple part, really. Use whichever trick out of these works for your piece and the number of students and the setup. Combine the different options to create your perfect ensemble. So you don't have to use just one of these ideas, you can put them together, get messy, and have fun with it. Don't be too rigid about it. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be a good experience and a valuable experience for your students. The first technique is to yo-yo. What I mean by yo-yo, and I know some people call this a relay, I think. Student A plays bar or measure 1, student B plays bar or measure 2, student A plays bar 3, etc., 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 right? That's a simple way to split up one part between multiple students, and you can combine that with one of the next techniques. But that's the simplest way to get started. If you just have two students together and you don't want to create a whole duet, you're not at that stage yet, then get them to yo-yo the piece. They'll learn so much about keeping in time and listening properly to each other. And then you might add on this next layer with another student, which is root chord or chord plus melody. So student A plays the melody on the piano, or student A and B yo-yo it back and forth, and then as many other students as possible fit on piano. So if you have a couple of pianos in your studio, great. If you even have just one, see how many students you can get onto the one piano. You can get at least 3, maybe 4 in some cases, and you can have them play the root or the chord or a vamping pattern depending on their level. So my beginners would be playing just the root note of each chord and just reading the letters, and that's plenty for them, possibly with color coding on the keys. Then other students would be playing a chord or even just a third up from the root, or an open fifth, something like that. And then my more advanced students would be making their own vamping patterns or using chord inversions, right? And showing off a little bit. So they can all be doing that at the same time and trying to stay in time with each other. It's all about creating listening skill opportunities. Then from there you can add a rhythm section as well. So if you don't have many students in your workshop or at your lesson, you can use an app such as Super Metronome Groovebox, GarageBand, or iReal Pro. Super Metronome Groovebox is the simplest option there. That's just like an 80s drum machine. GarageBand or iReal Pro are not really designed to be just a rhythm backing track, but they can definitely be used that way with a little bit of tweaking. So if you don't have many students, go with an app and make them into your rhythm section, and definitely do add that if you can. And if you have lots of students, make them start the rhythm section, make them into the rhythm band with anything and everything you have on hand. So tambourines, cymbals, drums. But if you don't have those things, get out a box of beads. That can be your tambourine. Get out a cardboard box and make it a drum. You don't need fancy stuff. You just need a few basic instruments, and they can absolutely be homemade. It's all about giving them clear instructions and staying on time. So make sure you set certain students, especially if you've quite a few, as being crotchets, quarter notes, or semi-breves, and that they each have a job to do. And often I'm making everyone count out loud as well, so that they can actually stay in time. Put them together and experiment with it. Don't feel like you need to have all the answers or create the perfect ensemble. Just get them together and experiment with some of these ideas. They're simple, they're basic, but they work and they're fun. The next set of ideas are for asynchronous collaboration. So sometimes we just cannot bring our students together in our studio. It's not possible. What can we do then? Well, we can work separately together, and we can still feel that sense of community, still get the value of the teamwork, and still have to stay in time and keep the train moving forward. So we can get all those benefits that we get from working as an actual ensemble, as an actual group. We can get the same benefits from working separately together. One way to do this is using backing tracks. This does give us some of the flavour, although it's not really true collaboration. It is a great step towards it. So backing tracks come with many books, such as, many method books. Microjazz also has great backing tracks, and many, many more do as well. So if your student's book comes with a backing track, make sure you use them. They are so valuable. You can also use things like Piano Maestro and other apps like that to get a sense of, to use basically backing tracks, although they're a little bit fancier than that. At least get them to use a drummer app or a track on YouTube, a drumming track on YouTube. So if you don't have a device that can use a drumming app, then just pull up a drumming track on YouTube. It works just the same. And it's an easy way to get your students at least getting some of the sense of playing with another musician, which is so, so important and can teach them all those skills we've been talking about. The next idea is to do a duet swap, or it could be even a trio swap. So student A records their part of the duet on a phone or iPad. Student B records their part. They send it to you, they both email it to you, and they swap and send back. The parent can just record this on the voice recorder on their phone or iPad or whatever they have, and they both send it to you, and then you swap the files around and you send it right back to each of the other students. Make sure if you're doing this that they count in at the start. So I have my students say 1, 2, ready, play before they start, when they're practicing duets together and like actually in the same room together. And so I have them do the same thing when they're recording their part for the other person to practice with. They can also keep counting for the whole piece, and that's a great idea if you have students who need to work on the rhythm in the piece. Obviously counting out loud while you're playing while you're playing is always a great thing to do, but it can help the other person stay in time too. So whichever version suits your particular students, and you could even get them to do one of each so that they have both to practice with. Another idea is to have them create a one-person band, as I call it, in GarageBand. So for this, they're going to have to figure out the chords in their piece. So choose one of their pieces and get them to figure out the chords like we were talking about before to create a sort of a lead sheet. And then record the smart instruments in layers. So I'm not going to do a full GarageBand tutorial here, although if anyone thinks this would be a good topic for a future workshop, I can absolutely look into doing that for you. But it's basically about recording different tracks on top of each other in GarageBand using the smart instruments. So they're super intuitive and straightforward to use, and most students will catch on to it faster than most teachers, right? So experiment with it with your student. Don't feel like you need to know exactly how it works before you get started. Once you have the chords laid out, they can play along with it with the metronome and create this backing track for themselves using the smart instruments. Once they have it created, they can export it and play their piece with their own self-created backing track. So I don't let my students use the smart piano to play, unless they're going to create sort of a secundo part maybe, but really they should be playing all of the piano parts. I have them use the other instruments, put together this band track that's like a rhythm section basically, and that will be their track, their new backing track that they export, and they play their piece along with that. They can then speed it up or slow it down using a app to do that. You know, you can get those simple apps that one of them's called like the Amazing Speed Down or whatever. They're basically, there's loads of them out there, and they will speed up or slow down music while keeping it at the same pitch. Another idea, and this is one I'm thinking about trying soon, I think it could be really, really fun, is to do a composition collaboration. So the idea here is student A composes a 4-bar or measure motif. Student B expands to a 16 or bar measure melody. So student A is composing what I would call an A motif, and then student B composes a B motif to go with that and puts it together into a form. So they choose whether it's AABA or whatever. Then student C is going to add the harmony and adjust. So they add the left hand pattern, chords, maybe they move the melody into the left hand and add chords in the right hand. They adjust it as much as they like, keeping most of the same melody that student B had. And then student D is going to polish it up, add dynamics, a tempo, and a title. So together they've created this composition, and you could have all 4 students do each of these parts and then swap them around, right? So they all compose a 4-bar motif, then they take the other person's 4-bar motif and they create the 16-bar melody, and then they create another person's melody and they harmonize it, and then they take the last stage with the one that they haven't seen at all yet. And then at the end, they can play through all 4 of them. I think this could be amazingly fun. And like I said, I think I'm going to try this soon myself. So those are some ideas for asynchronous collaboration, as I call it, which is super relevant to many of us at the moment as we can't bring people together. So if you need more ideas, resources and support, especially right now with everything that's going on, and you're not a member of Vibrant Music Teaching, I hope you'll consider becoming a member. We've just added lots of resources for online lessons to help teachers through this time. We have a full workshop on online lesson essentials and a whole page with loads of stuff to help you through your online lesson adventure. We also, of course, have the full library of printable games and activities, and you are welcome to send those to parents. So many teachers send them through to parents for online lessons, and they have them print them out. Or you can send them via snail mail, as Americans would call it, or the post, as I would say. All the games and printables are filterable by level and topic so that you can find exactly what you need. And I basically help you teach everything with creativity and games, including in our current situation. We also have full courses. If you've a bit more time at home at the moment, you can dive into Solfa Skyrocket to learn about teaching with Solfa, Practice Pro, or the Piano Practice Physicians Clinic to learn about teaching efficient practice habits. The Circle of Fifths Odyssey is a full set of lesson plans to take your students on a Circle of Fifths journey, and actually this would be a super fun one to try now because it comes with improvisation backing tracks, so you don't have to be in the room with them. There's the chord crash course to take your students from chord 0 to chord hero in 6 weeks. And there's composer cultivation course, which could help you take those composing ideas I talked about earlier a little bit further with your students. So there's all of those courses. There's also full curricula for preschoolers and older students to take you through oral work, rhythm, technique, and theory with all of your students at whatever level they're at, all the way up to like a solid intermediate level. You get all of that and all of the games and the mini musicians plans for group preschooler for teaching preschoolers in groups. Once we can do that again, of course, you can access that. So there's a full printable library, the lesson plans, the games roadmaps to walk you through each game step by step in a sequenced order of teaching, the video library with all of the courses, videos of my teaching, and workshops and webinar recordings like this one right here. Q&A sessions, which are strategy sessions where I talk one-on-one with particular members about anything they need help with in their studio. And our Facebook community where all the best people live. Of course, I'm biased. So you can get access to all of that inside Vibrant Music Teaching. Members, don't just take it from me, members absolutely love it as well. This is Bronwyn, who says all the content comes in a super organized, leveled library so you don't have to waste time trawling through all the content. And there's a lot of content. Morgan said, Nicola is an excellent teacher of teachers. Thank you, Morgan. I feel like she's personally invested in my success as a teacher. I appreciate her upbeat, friendly candor and succinct presentation style. I feel it's a feel-good place to hang out, absolutely, and it's great to have Morgan as part of the community. Rachel says you cannot afford not to subscribe to VMT. It will save you so much lesson planning, and the insight into ideas and inspiration you will receive are absolutely invaluable. So thank you for those lovely comments. Now, normally at this point in my presentation, I would share some social media things with teachers and their students talking about the games they're doing. But actually, I don't want to brag about our games right now. I want to brag about how lovely all of the members are, because these are just a few of the posts where members are sharing with each other about how they're doing things, how we can still include games in our lessons, how we can still have a positive outlook on things. And there's just been such an outpouring of wonderful support to each other at this time, even more than usual. And it's just inspiring. It's so wonderful to be a part of it. So it's normally $25 per month for everything to be a part of our community, including the new online essentials page. But because we need this so much right now, I've been adding more and more resources to it. We have descriptions of how to communicate about online lessons with your studio parents, including email templates. We have full descriptions of the teacher tech setup, how the student should set up their technology, planning and assignments for online lessons, how to do that, teaching tips for online lessons, PDF flashcards, which we're adding more to all the time, Web Wonders, which is our new set of games which you can do in online lessons with only a piece of paper and dice. What to do when online lessons won't work in terms of doing video lessons. We have the podcast episode about it. We have our Q&A session replay, and you can of course ask questions at any time. Now, because of everything that's going on, I know that finances are uncertain, And I know that people at the same time need access to resources, right? This is the time when you need stuff and you're also feeling uncertain. If you're not a member already, do you really want to be signing up for something new right now? No. So I want to give you a 1-week trial for only $1. I don't do that often, only in special circumstances. But I want to do it right now because if there's someone out there watching this who needs to get started with online lessons, who needs to add games to them to make them fun, who needs some teaching tips about online teaching, and they're feeling completely overwhelmed and they need more support, if that describes you right now and you're not a member, sign up with the trial. It's 1 week for $1. Just $1 for a week. If you cancel within the week, you won't be charged again. If you don't cancel, it'll go through at their regular rate, which is $25 a month. But you can cancel at any time. You can do it yourself right within your account. No questions asked, no problem, only $1 spent, and you get access to everything instantly. So if you need support right now, please take advantage of that. I'm very happy to be able to offer to you. And normally on webinars, I put a limit on this. I'm not saying there's a limit right now. It's up for as long as you need it, for as long as I feel that teachers are, needing to make this transition to online teaching and need that extra support. So to get that $1 trial for 1 week, just enter the code online on the checkout page and you'll get that first week for $1 only. And you'll get access to all of that. So I'm going to show you how that works, and then I'm going to dive into the questions that have been coming throughout. If you have more questions, please add them in. If you missed the start, by the way, I was saying that I'm happy to stay on to answer any questions about anything. So not just ensemble stuff today, happy to answer questions about that as well. But if you have questions about online teaching that I haven't answered elsewhere, or you couldn't make the live session earlier this week, or you've COVID-19 questions in general and concerns, or you need support in some other area, I'm happy to stay on and help you out with it. It's a difficult time and I want to make it as easy as I can, as stress-free as it's possible to make it right now. Depending on where you are in the world, obviously the situation will vary, but I'll do my best to help you with anything that I can. Let me show you some stuff inside Vibrant Music Teaching, wrong way, and then we'll get started. So this is the online lesson essentials page. This is the workshop. It's a half an hour and it will teach you literally everything you need to know to get started with online teaching at the moment, if you need to do that right now, or if you're not sure you have all your bases covered and you've been getting started this week but you're a bit lost, that will help you with that. We also have tons of other info, and I'm expanding on this page all the time and adding anything that members need. So we have information about communicating, email templates that you can use as a starting point when you're sending out this information to parents, to make sure they're on board and they know what's going on and they have everything set up on their side. We have a setup tutorial for Zoom where I walk you through how I set it up. There's not only one way to do that, so it doesn't mean you're doing it wrong if it's not that way, but that will give you a simple way to get set up with Zoom that does work. It is how I do it myself. We also have information about all different aspects of online lessons, and then we have some downloads. So we have PDF flashcards. These are just simple flashcards that are set up with screen resolution, so 16:9. So if you're using screen share in your video call, such as via Zoom, then these will show up nicely on screen and be nice and big for your students to see them. Then we also have the new game set, which is Web Wonders. These are little cards which will give you instructions of games you can play with only a piece of paper and dice. That's all you need, and your student doesn't even need to have the dice on their end. They just need the piece of paper and the pencil, and you can play all of those games, multiple different levels of games and different concepts within there to keep things fun and light, because we can be an enormous, valuable light in our students' lives right now. If you'll excuse the cheesiness, I think you all will with how things are going. Right? I've heard from so many parents that, oh my gosh, that was amazing to keep that part of our day, and he or she has really cheered up after seeing you and his piano buddy on the Zoom call, that's great. So it's really valuable. And if we can add in some games, little sprinklings of joy into our students' day, I think we are doing a great service. We're doing a great thing with everything that's going on right now to keep that in families' lives. So, sorry, that's just the comments at the bottom of the page. Lovely comments there from members. Tons of stuff there. There's also, of course, as always, the video library and the printable library, which you can dive into at any time. I'll just show you how the sign up process looks, if you're wondering about that. So if you click any of the buttons there, you go to the bottom of the page. You're going to select the monthly membership if you want to get that trial. If you want to pay for a full year and get the extra discount, you can do that either. But for the trial, you're going to go to the monthly page. I have that open here. All my details are pre-filled, but you'll fill in that form. And then at the bottom, you see have a coupon. You just click on that and you enter the code online in all caps, and it will automatically change so that it says that, oh sorry, I haven't pressed enter there. So it's just applying now. It's because I've had that page open for a while. I'll show you here. So I type in online, and then at the top you'll see it changes to 1 week for $1 and then $25 per month. So if you cancel within the first week, you won't be charged again, and I hope you'll take advantage of that if you feel like you need some support right now, as I say. So I'm going to dive into the questions now, and that is the bonus page if you want to grab the free multi-level group game and get some other access to some other information there. And if you want to use that trial, go right ahead with that coupon. Now let's just check in with the comments. See where I left off. Oh, Sam, congratulations on your first 3 online lessons. If you're still live, I'm delighted I was able to help you, and I hope it's starting to go smoothly. You're starting to get into the swing of it. I know the technology is intimidating at first, but we get there, and then it seems fine, right? It gets up and running, and then they run pretty much like regular lessons, sort of. Elle, is there any way to play together in real time online? So I hope, Elle, that the suggestions I gave you for the asynchronous collaboration will help you to give you a sense of your students playing together, and maybe you can use some of those ideas. There is a way to play together in real time, but it is so techy that I don't want to go into it, basically. I have seen it done. It can be done. You need, well, I'm not sure if you would need this, but this is the way I've seen it done, is using, oh, look, it's so complicated, that I just don't recommend it. You have to work out the exact lag time and sort of tweak things, and, you know, someone may be able to tell you an easier way, but the ways I've seen it done are so complicated that I don't think teachers should be worrying about doing that right now. It's just so hard. And I don't say that about technology very often, so maybe someone should solve my problem or teach me a way that I don't know about. Catherine, how do you teach preschoolers online? How do I teach preschoolers online? Basically the same way I do in person, which is getting them up and down and round about and all over the place and doing lots of stuff. 2 little tips though, Catherine, which are different for online lessons. So for our preschool students, I sent a little packet of different tools and resources to their parents in advance. So musical alphabet memory, dogs and gates, star cards, a few things like that. Anything you would use in person that you feel is a really valuable tool, and is particularly things that are that you can use in multiple ways. I sent those to the parents or dropped them off, and they have them on their end. So that makes it easier because you have some stuff. I'd also encourage you to keep the parents in the room if they're not normally, so that they can be your teaching assistant or teaching aid on that end, and they'll actually learn a lot through the process, and it'll be a really good experience for them as well. So get an adult to stay in the room, send them a packet of a few tools, and then you can pretty much work as usual. It works very well from there. A general online tip is everything that you would have done at the same time with your preschooler or your older student, do it as an echo instead. Tina, I do partner lessons. I want to have some suggestions for online teaching too. I know it's a question related. Yeah, no worries. So, Tina, I am still doing buddy lessons. So you can absolutely do partner lessons. It does work. Let me know if you have specific questions for me. If it's about the tech or if it's about the teaching. I'm not sure which aspect you need help with. So let me know and I'll help you out with that. Megan, thank you for all your help for the last 2 weeks. Thank you so much, Megan. I'm absolutely delighted to be able to help. Grana, is it? Hill. Where is a good place to start looking through the library if you are a member? In general? Or right now? In general, you should start on the start page. And if you don't have that already, like that's where you should have been sent as a new member when you're new. But if you need the link to that, just email me, Grana, and I'll send it through to you. There's a form on that page, a simple little questionnaire or like a quiz, that's what I mean. And you can choose, what you want to learn about and what type of thing, and then it'll direct you to something. So that's a good place to get started with your first thing. If you're looking at online lessons, you just look at the online lesson essentials page, and to get to that, just go to the resources menu, video library, and then you'll see it at the top, right there at the top. But again, if you've any further questions, just email me. Catherine, how do you help students feel comfortable about the new setup? The last call I had, the kids were uncomfortable with the video format. Okay. In what way were they uncomfortable, Catherine? Can you describe it to me a little bit more? I find if I project comfort and confidence and positivity, even if I'm feeling like I've no idea what I'm doing, it comes across and the kids go with it. I haven't had any kids sort of balk at the format. It takes them a few minutes to get used to it, and you might have to coach them through it, telling them things like, okay, you can't just nod at me anymore, you have to actually say yes, and just giggling about it, because the more you keep it lighthearted, the easier it is for them to get involved with it and feel comfortable. Katerina? Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Just to clarify, we are allowed to use resources for as long as we are active members, correct? If we discontinue, we won't be allowed to use the resources anymore. Yep, that's right. You can use the resources, but like if you've printed out a game, obviously you don't have to destroy the game if you cancel. But yeah, otherwise, whenever you're an active member, you can use whatever you like. A pretty simple system. Great. Glad that was useful. Go with asynchronous. I promise you it's easier, unless you have a real important reason to dive into understanding lag times and adjusting it and making things work. Amy. Yes, Amy. I remembered that name and I couldn't remember who the actual name was. We can share these teaching aids games for online lessons physically, right? Yeah, not electronically, but you can also share them electronically, especially under the current circumstances. Members have permission to do that, as long as you only share them with parents in your studio, and you tell them not to share it with anyone else. You have my permission to send it to them via email if you want, but you can also absolutely share them physically. We say that anyway. You can set up a lending library for your students, so this is essentially that. You can send them to your parents through the post or whatever. Hope that helps, Amy, but if you've any further questions, I can clarify. Libeth, students are really struggling with setting up their iPad, etc. to see their hands on the piano. I admit that I am also, because I have no special equipment. Libeth, have you seen my setup video that was on YouTube and is also part of our workshop in the member area? in that, I do a slightly silly walkthrough, sped up walkthrough of all these different setups you can use with books, essentially. Basically, what you want to encourage them to do is to put it to the side of the piano. And once you emphasize that, they tend to get it right. So a pile of books to the side of the piano is often the best solution. But watch that video if you haven't already, and feel free to send it to parents. It is on YouTube, that one. So if you go to my YouTube channel, Colourful Keys YouTube channel, you'll see it. It's one of the recent videos, so it should be right there. And in that one, it's directed at teachers, but the section where I show the different setups, I send that to parents as well and say, like, excuse my silly video, but these are a few different ways to set it up if you have a laptop or an iPad or whatever. So hopefully that'll be useful for you. I think it's more useful than me talking you through it right now here, because you'll see it in action. Oh, okay, you have seen the video. I made it look so easy, but it's not that easy. Well, it is sped up. That's why it looks easy. It felt like me faffing back and forth a lot when I was doing it. But that's really what you have to do. You have to find the thing for your setup, because every space is different. So it's mostly about finding somewhere beside the piano. If you have a little table or a chair or something to sit beside the piano, and then a pile of books, and then standing the device up, maybe the part that's hard. You can let me know if that's right or not, Libeth. So if that's what's difficult, then you put another book in front of the device. That's what I'm doing there. So I'm not sure of the name there, but how do you respond to a parent that says that their 7-year-old is too young for online lessons? Do you recommend sending them theory work, etc., until one lessons review? Oh, Helen. Okay. So, Helen, the first thing I would say is, did you give them an option, or did you tell them this is what you were doing? Because if you have more people to contact and this isn't how you phrased it before, I would definitely tell them that you are doing this and sound confident and sure of yourself. So that's the first thing I would say. If you didn't do that already, do that. Now, if they say, oh, my 7-year-old is too young, I would first of all go back and say, oh, I really, in the nicest possible way, I would phrase this carefully, but basically I would say, no, they're not. I teach 4-year-olds like this. So if you go, I wouldn't say it like that, like I'm saying, Helen, but I would go back and basically saying, no, really, you might be surprised how similar this is to in-person lessons. Will you give it one try and we'll see how we get on? This is how it works. Or if you can send them a video of what it looks like you can send them my video of my Skype lesson if you like. So that they can see one in action. Some people just need a bit more comfort in knowing how it looks. It's not scary, and it basically is like you sitting beside them, except you're in a screen. Now, if they still are like, no, it's not going to work, I would propose video lessons rather than just sending them theory work. So say, okay, no problem. How about we do video lessons instead? I'll send you a video each week of things Johnny needs to work on and tips about how he can work on each thing and talk you through it. And you can even in the video say, okay, we're going to do the right hand of XYZ piece. Pause the video now while you try it out. So you can even talk them through a whole lesson like that and then you can send back any notes or questions from there if you'd prefer not to do it as an online video call. Do a video lesson. That would be my next proposal to them. If they still insist, of course, it's an unusual situation and we have to be a bit flexible, but I would try and push a little bit harder for them to try it because they might just be nervous about it. Amy, I didn't see the part that you're talking. Oh yeah, I'd say so, Amy. Sol mineur, like G minor maybe. Yes, I would guess that is what it is, Amy, because the name is also French, right? Hélène? Maybe she can chime in. If I sign up for the $1 trial, can I sign up later? Yes, you will just have to cancel that account and set up a new one, but that's absolutely fine. And our support team will help you do that if you have any trouble with it. So it's absolutely fine. You can try the 1 week. You'll just have to start a new account when you when you switch to a year. Okay? So you'll be cancelling and starting a new subscription, but you can absolutely do it that way. Sharon, thanks for all the online add-ons. Oh, you're very welcome, Sharon. Happy to help. Yes, it's French. Great to know. Thanks, Hélène. Okay, doesn't look like you guys have more questions, but if you do, I'm going to switch back to my face now. So pause the video here if you want to grab either of those codes off the screen. And I'll say hello. It's getting dark here. It's not completely dark here. You know what's been helpful in this slightly hectic, slightly stressful, understatement of the year week? It's been really nice. It's been sunny. It's getting brighter outside. Doesn't that make you more cheerful? It's much better than looking out at grey and rain. I'm very appreciative of the weather this week, I have to say. The garden's coming to life. It really shows you, oh, it's not all bad. Anyway, I hope that answering those questions was useful for you guys and that all the resources we've been putting out were as well. If you need any additional help, please reach out to us. So if you're not a member and you want access to support, you have the $1 trial. It's just $1. That's it. That's all you're committing to. So I want to get these resources into your hands if you need the help. So use that if you need it. If you are a member and you're still needing extra help, if you have extra questions, post in our VMT Clubhouse. If you're not on Facebook, shoot us an email. We'll be happy to help you out. And other members will too if you post in the Facebook group, which is the benefit there because I might be asleep, right? And they might answer for me and you can get more support there that way. Thank you all so much for joining me. It's been a blast and I hope you're all staying calm and healthy and yeah, just look after yourselves, okay? Take time out for yourselves. Explore the resources you need to explore, the things you actually need to do, and then don't do stuff you don't need to do so that you can take time out and stay healthy and balanced. Reach out if you need support. We're here if you need it. I'll talk to you all soon. Bye for now, guys.